viewers and subscribers. Welcome to another episode. People, in today's video, we want to discuss the reasons why Black people and colored people do not have affluent suburbs of their own. Is there a reason for this? Let us know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holler. Woo! People, for those who have been to Cape Town, for those who live in Cape Town, they will know the kind of like division history of Cape Town, right? Oh, it is cold in Cape Town. Let me tell you that right now. See me wearing the thick jacket, then you know it is cold in Cape Town. I never wear thick clothes, never cold. All of a sudden, it is cold in Cape Town. People, hope our new studio, soon to be. Hope it's. I hope it's going to be a permanent setting for where we're going to start recording our videos, vlogs, and stuff like that. Still in the making. So, yeah, please bear with us as we slowly upgrade as the funds come in. As you know what I mean. But for now, this is where we're going to be shooting most of our videos at whenever the other spaces are occupied, because I've noticed that whenever I try recording in the other spaces, then phew, there's always people walking up and down, up and down. So now we have been forced to create our own little makeshift studio where no one's going to disturb us, and we can record for as long as we can, for however, and speak in however way that we want to speak, right? So please bear with me. Okay, people, back to the video. For those who don't know, Cape Town is divided in two ways, actually, the Afrikaner side and the British side. Now, most people don't realize that, right? Until you really start to pay attention. So, which is the Afrikaner side and which is the British side? The northern suburbs were taken by the Afrikaner people. In the other sense, you get areas like Durbanville, Bellville, going up, going right over. If you go over the Bellville section, going to Durbanville upwards to all that, you'll find it's mainly Afrikaner people. If you go to the southern suburbs, you'll find that there's Afrikaner people, of course, but there's mostly English-speaking people over there, right? And it was said so because the British and the Afrikaner people just never got along because of the Anglo-Boer War. The Anglo-Boer War. Anglo-Boer War. There was a sad history in the. There was a sad chapter in the history of the Afrikaner people because they lost 25,000, 30,000 people, right? And I don't think the British have fully repented or shown remorse for what they did then, right? I don't think they did. But having said that, oh, this light is too bright. So, having said that, right, I don't think that the Afrikaner and the British people are actually going to get along, right? Yes, they may tolerate each other now because obviously it happened a long time ago, and the younger generation don't really see things quite the way the older generation sees things. So obviously tensions are toning down more than anything, you know. And I think going forward, I mean, there'll always be, the hardliners and the radicals on either side, you know what I mean? But yeah, for the most part, I think that is simmering, not boiling, it's just dying down, I think, not so much, you know. The Afrikaner people still have their Afrikaner pride, Buddha pride, that Afrikaner heritage, and they will express it and, push it wherever they can, you know what I mean? And the British also have their own traditions and cultures that they obviously maintain and push and do whatever they need to do, you know what I mean? Cool. So we get there, right? So Cape Town is divided in two. The northern suburbs are mainly African speaking, and the southern suburbs are mainly English speaking. Okay. So where does this leave the colored and the black people? Have you ever noticed that wherever you go in any city in Cape Town, in South Africa, there are no black affluent suburbs. There are no colored affluent suburbs. And yet, for some reason, when you go to any city, there are Indian affluent suburbs, except Cape Town. For some reason, Cape Town doesn't have an Indian only area, an Indian only suburb. I think the closest we could get to is Saria State, maybe. But even Saria State, it's more Muslim than Indian per se. There isn't a pronounced or a Indian area. You see, like for example, if you go to Lenasia, I think in Joburg, I think that's or Mayfair, I think that's more Indianish, you know, Muslim dominated as well, but Indianish also, If you go to Pretoria, I know Lodium and Claudius. I mean, those are outright. You can see those are Indian. I mean, Durban, obviously, being Durban. I mean, I'm trying to think. I would like to think the Phoenix, Chatsworth. I think those are like predominantly. I think the Indian areas, if I'm not mistaken. Wentworth, Chatsworth, Phoenix. I think it's Wentworth also somewhere there. I think Wentworth is for the colored. But it's pronounced and it's profound in but I'm trying to think of like maybe La Lucia, I think, mainly Indian rich because Indians are rich people, so they always have had their own areas where they're affluent Indian areas. Even if you go up throughout Africa, I know in Kenya there's affluent suburbs where the Indian people live because they predominantly run the economy in Kenya. Where else do I know of? Where else? Where else do I know? There was Oh yes, there's a place in Zimbabwe where there's sure Indian people. Oh my goodness, they had affluent suburbs in Zimbabwe in what Belvedere and where else? Banana and Belvedere, Vinona, something like that. You could see the Indian influence in those suburbs. Real. So that is the question of my video two this day. I just outlined the Afrikaner people, the British people, and the Indian people, right? Notice that I've mentioned two white groups and an Indian group. And now I'm talking about the colored and the African, the colored and the black people, right? Why do these two groups always almost never have affluent suburbs of their own? Why did these are the only two groups that almost always have township settings, and within those township settings there are sections that are better than the uh, traditional downtrodden parts of the township. So let me give you an example in Cape Town, right? In Cape Town, there used to be an area, well, it's not as elite anymore, right? So if you lived in Mitchell's Plain, for example, right, there were sections in Mitchell's Plain that were seen as uppity than other places that are not, right? So, for example, if you lived in Mitchell's Plain, you would know that for a time, Portland's was that area that people aspired to go and live. It was a bit peaceful, it wasn't so rugged, houses were bigger, but it still didn't negate the fact that it was inside a township. It wasn't a stand-alone suburb of wealthy people or rich people. It was within the confines of Mitchell's Plain. Okay, then Portland fell away as the area of choice for uppity colors, right? Colorado became that place. Now people aspire to go and live in Colorado Park. Colorado again, an uppity area. But when I say uppity area, trust me, the houses are not like your Constantia. I'm not talking about Constantia, Saint, and La Lucia, or nah. I'm not talking that. It's Sterling Mitchell's Plain, but it's a nicer section. It was a nicer section of Mitchell's Plain. Open fields, green grass. It was nice, but it was still in a township setting. It was not a standalone suburb where it was just like big houses, boats, ships, yards for acres. It had not like how affluent suburbs look. It was not like that, and it's not like that. It's still within a township, just a section of the township that is a bit better off than the rest of it. So why are black and colored people not having their own affluent suburbs? Why is that always the case? Now, here's my analogy. This is what I think, my analysis, right? Number one, colored people and black people are their own worst enemies. Colored people and black people do not want to see each other prosper. I am not saying black people are attacking white people or colored people are attacking black. No, I'm talking within their own race groups. A black person would not want to see another black person rise to the top. A colored person doesn't want to see another colored person rise to the top. That is why crime is super rampant in these two race groups. It's the jealousy, it's the envy, it's the hate, it's that crab mentality, that crab in a bucket mentality. Pull him down syndrome, pull her down syndrome. I don't understand. It's hard for a black person to see another black person rise. It's hard for a colored person to see another colored person rise without you suspecting, talking about, gossiping if that person is either selling drugs, selling their bodies, doing something illegal. Why can't a person just prosper without you having to condemn? Why? Right now, for a black person to prosper, for a colored person to prosper, they have to move out of their township. They have to move out of the area. You can prosper in your area, but not to a certain. You cannot go overboard. You go overboard, you become the most hated family on the block in that area. Because now it's like you're showing off. How are you showing off if you've worked for it? How are you showing off if you've earned it? How are you showing off if you bought it outright? How are you showing off if you bought it on credit? How are you showing off if you have the right to maintain, own, and see fit to do with whatever it is that you bought with your own heart, sweat, and tears? How is that a route for someone to envy and despise you as a colored person, as a black person? How? This crab in a bucket mentality needs to stop. It really needs to stop. I don't. I totally get the whole divide and conquer thing that happened way back in the day, but we're in 2025 now. There's no reason for me to steal from you. There's no reason for me to see you walking around with Jordans, to now rob you of your Jordans. You go to work every day. You probably saved up, I don't know how much money to pay off for those Jordans. Yes, I know most people buy Jordans on account because they can't afford the cash value. Still, you're working hard to pay off those Jordans. That's why you have an income. That's why you're working. That's why you sweat. That's why you're doing whatever it is you do to try and pay off your account so that the Jordans are outrightly yours. But then you get people that see you in your Jordans, envy comes, hate comes, they want to take them off you. If you can take them off the person without offing the person, oh, that's a great thing. Jordans can always be replaced. But now we want to take them off you, and plus we want to off you. Why are we like this? Black people and colored people, why are we like this? Do you see the reason why white people move out as soon as they see colored people and black people moving in, or at least they look at how many colored and black people are moving in, and then they decide, before it becomes an unsafe neighborhood. Let's move out. Now, trust me, I am not saying that there's no crime in white areas. I mean, true. Look at Lolly Jackson. He was killed, I think, in Bedford View. Look at who else? Uh, there's a lawyer that was shot in Sea Point, dropping off his kids in a white. I mean, Sea Point is an uppity area. I mean, come on. There's crime, but it's not as rampant as it is in colored and black areas. So the reason why colored and black people do not have affluent suburbs of their own is that the crime would simply just transfer to those areas. It's not gonna it's not gonna it's not gonna change at all. I mean, I don't know if it's a cultural issue. I don't know if it's an attitude issue. I don't know if it's a mental issue. We are just prone to violence. I mean, I don't know why. We are just prone to violence. You cannot go and buy a big house. You cannot create a whole affluent city of thinking, okay, this is going to be for multimillionaire black people, because those black people are attached to unsavory characters that will be coming into the area, and then you can't say the same about colored people. I mean, we know gang bosses that live in high status areas, but even they bring that gang culture to those high, sophisticated, affluent areas. Now, can you imagine just a whole? Can you imagine an entire constituency of just colored people, or an entire centre of only black people? It would be chaotic. It would be chaotic because that township the township ties to those unsavory cat, it doesn't leave us. For some reason, you can have a. What I've noticed, what I've noticed in Constantia, and what I've noticed in Bishop's Court, is that the neighbors hardly talk to each other. It's like they don't even know each other. They're not even in each other's business. They don't even know what the other one does. They don't even care. They're too busy living their lives, making so much money that they don't even care what the other neighbor is doing. There's no time to go and borrow a teaspoon of sugar. There's no time to go and borrow a cup of milk because they're not on their level. If we, as colored people and black people, were living in those areas with all those big houses and everything, I promise you, with all the money we have, for some reason the swimming pool will be green. It's like the least of our worries. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're trying to outdo each other. I don't know why. Your neighbor buys a Benz, you need to buy a Jaguar, you need to. Why the competition? Why the envy? Why do we need to do that? Why can't we learn from the Indians and the white people? They have affluent suburbs of their own. Why can't we do the same? You know why? Because we do not have the mentality that these other race groups have. That's the reason why. We are still stuck on this envy, hate, jealousy train. And we need to stop that. Yeah. Let me know what you think about this topic, guys. Was I on the money or did I totally mess it with this one? Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holla.